The dark truth about voodoo. Haunted nightmares secrets revealed at 3 a.m. In the heart of the New Orleans night, where shadows danced and secrets whispered like the bayou's breeze, something sinister stirred. At 3 a.m., the witching hour, the veil between worlds was at its thinnest. Dark figures loomed over flickering candles, chanting incantations that sent chills down spines. Could it be true? Did voodoo hold the power to turn dreams into nightmares? A woman named Lila entered a dimly lit shop on Chartres Street, the air thick with the scent of patchouli and something more unsettling. She sought answers, but what she found was drenched in mystery. Strange charms hung from the ceiling, each one carrying an energy, a story wrapped in dark magic. When she held a rusted key, saw the eager eyes of the shopkeeper, the weight of generations pressed on her chest. Was this key to a door or a grave? Outside, the moon peeked through restless clouds, its pallid light revealing shadows creeping along alleyways. Someone followed her. Their presence ignited a sense of fear that made her heart race. The whispers of the dead seemed to pierce her mind, driving her forward as curiosity battled terror. She needed to know more, but at what cost? A distant scream broke the calm, freezing Lila in her tracks. The sound bounced off the brick walls, echoing through the night. It was a warning. The hooded figure behind her moved closer, the air growing colder, the atmosphere thickening with dread. Lila felt the lump in her throat, the tension tightening like a vice around her chest. She couldn't turn back now. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as the cloaked figure stepped into the light, Lila's heart raced anew. It was someone she recognized, someone she thought was gone forever. And with that shocking revelation, questions flooded her mind. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of New Orleans? What would happen next? Lila blinked hard, trying to comprehend the impossible sight before her. The figure wasn't a ghost, nor was it a memory. It was Claire, the sister she had been searching for, lost to the spirals of the past. Claire's face, pale and drawn, twisted into a mix of fear and urgency. Lila, Claire whispered, her voice strained, urgent. You shouldn't have come here. Shock coursed through Lila, a wave that washed over her as she took an involuntary step back. How could Claire be here? The air crackled with a charged energy, like electricity before a storm. I thought you were gone. I was. Lila's words faltered, the lump in her throat choking off her emotions. How are you here? Without answering, Claire scanned the alleyway, her gaze darting anxiously. We don't have time. They're coming. The shadows behind Claire seemed to swell, merging with the darkness of the night. Lila's heart raced, and every instinct screamed to escape. But the need for answers, for connection, silenced the fear gripping her. Who is coming? Lila demanded, the urgency in her voice trembling on the edge of panic. Claire's eyes darted back to Lila, her expression pained. The spirits, the ones you awakened. They're angry. You shouldn't meddle in this world without knowing the price. A low growl echoed through the darkness, a sound that felt low in the belly, sending shivers up Lila's spine. Claire's expression shifted to terror, a reflection of Lila's own rising fear. I was searching for you. I thought you could help me understand, Lila protested. What do you mean by the price? Before Claire could respond, a shrill scream sliced through the night, close and agonizing, as if someone had taken a blade to their soul. It was then Lila noticed movement in the shadows, dark shapes gliding toward them, each more menacing than the last. She felt a cold sweat trickle down her back. Run, Claire shouted, grabbing Lila's wrist, their connection igniting memories of childhood, of laughter, tainted now by chaos and dread. But with each step they took, the shadows deepened, and an unexplainable force pulled them back. Claire halted, glancing back at the rising darkness. Listen, you can't fight them. They'll use your fears against you. Suddenly, A burst of energy surged between the sisters. Visions flashed in Lila's mind, scenes of their childhood, the laughter, the bond they shared, interwoven with cryptic images of dark rituals and spectral figures reaching out from the depths of a long-buried past. Lila, remember, the key you hold, it's not just a key. It's a portal. It connects you to their world. You can open doors that should remain closed. Claire's voice trembled, but was steady with urgency. What do we do? Lila felt desperation creeping in, suffocating like the thick, humid air around them. Do not open it. Not until you know what it holds. They will twist it to their will. You must. A loud crack interrupted her. The ground shook, and the air filled with a cacophony of whispers, screams intertwining, an overwhelming chorus of spirits clamoring for release. Lila's breath quickened, panic bubbling under her skin. Just then, Claire collapsed to her knees, grasping her head with both hands. You must find me again. The truth is in the blood. Before Lila could grasp the meaning, shadows surrounded Claire, engulfing her completely, twisting like fog, pulling her into the darkness. No, Claire! Lila screamed, reaching for her sister, but finding only cold air and fading shadows. Trembling, Lila clutched the rusted key tightly in her palm as the screams faded into chilling silence. The world blurred, spinning uncontrollably around her. What was she supposed to do? The air hissed, and an echo of Claire's final words seemed to resonate through the night. The truth is in the blood. Was that a warning or a beacon? With uncertainty gnawing at her core, Lila forced herself to take a step into the unknown. What other mysteries awaited her in the heart of darkness? And what truths lay buried in the blood that bound them? Lila stood frozen for a heartbeat, the silence ringing in her ears like a dormant storm about to break. She needed to move, to escape this oppressive gloom. But where to? Claire's warning echoed in her mind, spiraling with every passing second. The truth is in the blood. What did it even mean? Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, coaxing her to panic. Heart hammering, she took a hesitant step back into the alley from which they had come, her breath hitching as a new shriek pierced the night, rippling through the darkness. Every instinct told her to flee, to run until her lungs burned. But she couldn't leave without answers. Claire! Lila shouted, desperation lacing her voice. Please, where are you? There was no response, only the growing whispers in the air, each word a chilling caress against her skin. Lila pressed her back to the damp brick wall, feeling the cold seeping through her clothes. She clutched the key tightly, gripping its jagged edges, as if it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. That connection, it meant something. A flicker of light caught her eye. Tossing aside doubt, Lila stepped carefully toward the source, drawn by an unexplainable pull. As she moved, a low rumble vibrated beneath her feet, a harsh warning that the ground beneath her was alive. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, illuminating the stones in the alley, a pattern, perhaps a sign. Lila knelt down and brushed her fingers against the cool surface, tracing the shapes. The light intensified, shimmering in colors she had never seen before, each hue shifting like the spirits that haunted her thoughts. Show me, she whispered, hoping the universe would answer her plea. Suddenly, the patterns shifted violently, the stones rumbling as though they were eager to share their secrets. Lila recoiled instinctively, but curiosity held her in place. From the depths of her consciousness, visions rushed to the forefront. Their childhood home, Claire's laughter, old photographs scattered like leaves, the scent of her mother's perfume, memories intertwining with something darker. Then, it came a memory that felt like a warning. Their mother, a flicker of emotion crossing her face as she burned sage, chanting words Lila couldn't comprehend. There was a weight to those words, a gravity that pulled her deeper into the abyss. No, Lila shook her head, banishing the thought like a specter. I can't get lost in the past. But down that road lay answers, no matter how dark they were. Clenching her jaw, she recalled Claire's frantic warnings, the spirits angry and restless. They were not mere figments. They were real, tied to her family in ways she couldn't understand. That a sharp chill pushed through her as shadows writhed and coiled, transforming into indistinct forms that twisted and turned toward her. They whispered her name, 1,000 voices, each one darker than the last. Lila, Lila, she turned to flee, but the shadows surged forward, a wave of despair crashing against her. She could feel their anger as a physical force, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter with every attempt to breathe. "No," she screamed, the word clawing its way out. In that moment of blind panic, her fingers brushed against the key in her pocket. The cold metal felt familiar, and Lila remembered Clara's warning. It could open doors. It could let darkness flow through. "Please," she cried to the shadows that loomed, desperate for an escape from the tide pulling her under. With instinct surging, she rushed toward the pulsing light, her heart racing as she clutched the key and thrust it forward. What if it was the answer? Or would it consume her entirely? The shadows halted, and for a split second, there was silence, the air thick with anticipation. But as she reached the glowing stones, a spark flared, lighting the night more brightly than ever before. Lila felt the world swell around her, and just before the brightness enveloped her completely, she heard a voice, deep and echoing. "Be careful what you awaken," and then, darkness. What awaited her in this new realm, and what other? Horrors lay hidden behind the door she dared to open? Lila gasped as the brightness subsided, leaving her in pitch darkness. It was a weighty silence, like the world had stopped breathing. Her heart drummed loudly in her chest, and the icy fingers of fear wrapped around her. "Hello?" she called out softly, her voice echoing eerily in the void. No answer came, but she could swear she felt something watching her, something ancient and hungry. The air was thick and charged, crackling with energy that made her skin prickle. Lila fumbled to regain her bearings, trying to suppress the rush of panic that threatened to swallow her whole. Slowly, she raised her hand, the key still clasped tightly, a cold lifeline in this realm of shadows. Suddenly, flickers of light burst around her, lights that danced and flared like fireflies in the dark. There were whispers again, but this time, they weren't just distant echoes pulled from memory. They were sharp, urgent, whispered secrets that clawed at her resolve. "Find us, help us." The voices were haunting, weaving through the air like smoke, pulling at her heartstrings. Lila took a shaky breath, shutting her eyes against the suffocating fear. What kind of place had she entered? Was this the home of the restless spirits Claire had warned her about? Steeling herself, Lila took a step forward, her foot connecting with a cool, uneven floor that sent ripples through the air. As she ventured deeper, the lights formed a path before her, swirling like a river beckoning her to follow. "Claire!" she shouted again, trying to pierce through the grasp of this ominous stillness. "Where are you?" It felt like calling into a void, and despair chipped at the edges of her spirit. Just when she thought she might spiral into hopelessness, one of the lights flared brighter, illuminating a figure standing at the edge of her sight. Her breath caught. Lila, the figure's lips moved, but the voice was muted, trapped in the air between them. "Claire?" Lila took another step, and the vague silhouette shifted, the light casting elongated shadows that twisted ominously against the walls. The figure wasn't clear, but it was unmistakably her sister. A thin strand of hope flickered in Lila's chest. As she moved closer, the shadows gathered around Claire like wolves, hungrily circling. Lila's heart dropped. Get away from her. Before she could act, the shadows lunged, engulfing Claire in a swirling tempest of darkness. Lila felt a visceral pull towards her sister, an invisible bond that threatened to snap. "No!" she screamed. In a sudden burst of adrenaline, she thrust the key forward, just as a shattering wave of despair crashed over her. The shadows hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, the brightness surged again, brimming with the energy of unresolved truths. "Show me!" Lila cried, her voice echoing against the darkness. The shadows recoiled, rippling as if they were afraid. Claire's silhouette flickered, almost out of focus. "Lila, you must," she began, but the voice faded, lost among a chorus of anguished moans that erupted from the dark. "What do I need to do?" Lila shouted, desperation curling her fists. The key felt alive in her hand, pulsing as if answering her plea, as if it had a purpose that transcended this terrifying moment. "Unlock!" A breathy whisper slid around her, a swirl of voices that echoed off the jagged stones of this nightmarish realm. Unlock the truth, but what truth? Lila's mind raced with possibilities, and dread coiled in her stomach like an uncoiling serpent. "Please," she pressed, her heart hammering, "tell me what to do." Suddenly, The shadows lunged again, but this time with frantic energy, shrieking in a cacophony of fury. Lila staggered back, light flashing, the key radiating warmth that pushed at the encroaching darkness. And in that moment, she realized her own blood was tied to the very shadows that sought to bind her. She had awakened something that had been buried deep, and whatever it was, it craved release. "What have I done?" Lila cried, terror gripping her, as the shadows swirled, clawing at her sanity. With a final burst of courage, she gripped the key tightly again. "Open the door." As those words escaped her lips, the ground quaked, and the shadows screamed. In that instant, she knew something monumental was about to happen. Would she uncover the truth, or would it consume her entirely? And just like that, the world around her trembled, setting the stage for a revelation that might change everything forever. In those tremors, Lila felt an unmistakable shift. Something ancient and powerful awakened within her. What would emerge from the depths of darkness? And could Lila withstand the flood of truth? The ground shook violently beneath her feet, the shadows swirling angrily, as if disturbed from a long sleep. The dark was alive with fear and hunger, and Lila's heartbeat thudded in her ears like a war drum demanding her to act. "Open the door," the words whispered again, this time intertwining with the rumble of the earth. It was a command more than a plea. Lila felt the key pulse in her palm, its cold edge burning against her skin. She couldn't understand what force moved her, but she felt an undeniable urgency. She had to act now. With shaking hands, she raised the key. In the suffocating darkness, the flickering lights began to twist and weave into intricate patterns, forming an archway that pulsed with the raw energy of the unknown. It felt like a portal, vibrant and alive, yet laced with danger. Lila hesitated, the shadows still clawing at her ankles, hungry for her fear. "Claire." The name tore from her throat, desperation lacing her voice. The hazy figure of her sister flickered within the lights, tantalizingly close yet impossibly far. "I'm coming." Lila stepped toward the forming portal, and with each step, the shadows lunged, like wild animals snapping at its heels. She could see the faint outline of Claire's face, a mix of hope and anguish that made her heart clench. The whispers crescendoed, a cacophony rising to a deafening roar. "Unlock the truth." The chant echoed in unison, swirling in the air like butterflies caught in a tempest. What truth? What was she missing? The last remnants of doubt tangled with her fear. She needed to decide, and quickly. Every heartbeat zoomed past, a countdown she couldn't ignore. Gripping the key tighter, she took a breath, forcing herself to center her thoughts. She had come so far. Claire was in danger. She wasn't just fighting for herself, but for her sister. With a rush of determination, she thrust the key forward, aiming it into the glowing void. "I unlock you. I unlock this truth." At her words, the portal erupted with blinding light, cascading like fire as it swallowed the shadows. Behind her, the earth groaned under the shift of power, as if it were a living creature gargling with rage. The darkness writhed, more furious than ever, and the shadows clawed closer, desperate to pull her back, to silence her. "No," Lila cried, feeling the solidity of her resolve. "You won't take me." The light expanded further, encasing her and Claire's flickering silhouette. For a moment, everything held still. Suddenly, she felt an electric shock surge through her veins, illuminating her spirit. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. The air shifted. The shadows shrieked, twisting like smoke before they began to dissipate, retreating in waves fearful of the bright luminosity, of the truth breaking free. Claire's voice called to her, clearer now, cutting through the chaos. "Lila, please, you have to understand what you've awakened." Lila turned her gaze back toward her sister, who was now stepping tentatively into the light. "What do you mean? What have I awakened?" But before Claire could answer, a deep roar erupted from the portal. It wasn't just shadows retreating, it was the entity they had been hiding from, a dark force that clawed its way out, furious at having been disturbed. Crackling energy filled the air as the light and darkness collided, casting angry silhouettes against the walls. "You don't know what you've done." The voice guttered and hissed, echoing from the darkness as tendrils of shadow raced toward them again, eager to consume. Lila's heart raced. The truth hung before her like an unseen blade, and with each heartbeat, the stakes rose higher. If she didn't act fast, the very darkness she sought to illuminate might swallow her whole. All of this was buried for a reason, Lila. Claire shouted over the chaos, desperation in her eyes. What do we do? Lila yelled back, feeling the walls around them tremble. Embrace it. We need to face it together. Claire reached out, her hand trembling but steadfast. Lila felt an unyielding pull towards her sister and the fire of determination igniting within her. But even as she reached out for Claire, the shadows surged in one final, desperate onslaught, and the promise of truth morphed into a dark abyss that threatened to change everything she believed. Are you ready to face what lies within? Claire's eyes shone with a mix of fear and hope, and just then, the world tilted as the shadows screamed, enveloping them in a whirlwind of an ancient heritage they never knew existed. What would they discover in the thunderous embrace of the unknown? What price would Lila pay to unlock the truth waiting in the darkness? The roar from the portal swallowed the room whole. Light and darkness clashed around Lila and Claire, reverberating like thunder. The shadows writhing at the edge of the portal lashed out, tendrils twisting, reaching for them with an insatiable hunger. Lila, hold on to me, Claire shouted, her voice slicing through the cacophony. Lila could barely hear her, but she nodded fiercely. Together, they had to confront whatever this unholy apparition had unleashed. Lila felt a spark of clarity amid the chaos. I can't let you go, she shouted, extending her hand. It wasn't just about protecting Claire anymore. It was about facing the darkness that had hidden in her life for too long. The shadows lunged forward, coiling around Lila's legs like icy chains. She gritted her teeth, pulling harder against their grip, knowing the weight of the unknown clung to them both. What happened to us, Claire? We need to know. The portal's light pulsed around them, illuminating Claire's face, and Lila noticed something flickering in her sister's eyes, a darkness she had never seen before. It's not just about uncovering the truth, Claire managed, pulling Lila closer. It's about embracing it and finding our strength in it. As Claire spoke, a shadow lunged for her, but they stood 2 steps apart, united by their fear. Together, they took their first step toward the open void. It felt like stepping into a river of nightmares, swirling with unspeakable secrets. The air pressed against Lila's chest like a heavy weight, but she exhaled, emboldened by Claire's presence. Suddenly, the roar intensified, merging with a guttural voice that echoed through Lila's bones. You meddle in affairs best left untouched. It sent shivers racing down her spine as the very essence of dread vibrated around them. Who are you? Lila called bravely, willing herself not to falter. An ancient keeper, the voice replied, layers of anger twisting around the words. You have unlocked what was sealed for generations. What you awaken will cost you more than you can imagine. I don't care, Lila shouted, defiance sparking within her. We have a right to know. We will face you. The shadows recoiled, swirling like a storm, and Lila felt the pulse of the key in her hand again. It felt heavier this time, as if it knew the truth she was demanding. With renewed determination, she raised it, pointing straight into the twisting void. Show us, Lila shouted. Whatever the truth is, we will take it. A tremor rocked the ground beneath them, and the portal blazed, illuminating fleeting images, flashes of the past that danced in front of their eyes, dark ceremonies, cries of the forsaken, and the faces of those who had come before them. Memories of love and loss filled Lila's heart as the air thickened with the scent of damp earth and incense, echoed by whispered prayers that chilled her to the bone. Claire gripped her hand tighter, face etched in fear and fascination as the horrifying tapestry of their ancestors unfurled. Lila, Claire gasped, her voice nearly lost among the tumult. Do you feel that? There is so much pain, so much sacrifice. The shadows lunged toward them again, but Lila could feel Claire's unwavering presence anchoring her. The connection they shared ignited the light, pushing back against the darkness. Suddenly, a shadowy figure erupted from the portal, soaring upward with a scream that pierced through the clamor. It was monstrous and yet familiar, embodying a myth they both feared but couldn't yet comprehend, a legacy they had inherited. They could see it, a face they recognized from old family photos, someone they thought was long gone. No, that can't be. Lila cried, the weight of betrayal crashing into her. What had they uncovered? Who are you? Your shadow, the figure hissed, a hollow echo of familiarity. And your destiny, the rift grew wider, and with every moment, the truth surged closer, pulsing with urgency. A deep sense of foreboding settled in her stomach as Lila understood this was just the beginning. This truth was the key, unlocking hearts and minds tangled with darkness. Let us face it. Together, Claire urged, her voice bubbling with fear, yet tempered by resolve. But just when Lila thought they were ready, the sounds of souls crying out, desperate for acknowledgement, filled her ears. What horrors were waiting for them? Dread twisted in her gut, but Lila reached deep, feeling the electrifying connection to Claire fueling her resolve. What they had unearthed could rewrite everything. But they were not alone. Something dark and powerful loomed just beyond the edge of perception. Could they reclaim their birthright, or would the shadows consume them entirely, leaving behind nothing but echoes of a forgotten past? What judgment awaited them on the other side of truth? The portal pulsed violently, brightening and dimming like a heartbeat, and the shadowy figure loomed larger above them, its face twisting into a grotesque grin. Lila could feel Claire's hand trembling in hers, but that uncertainty only spurred her on. Stay close, Lila shouted, louder than before, pushing a burst of courage into her voice. They needed each other now more than ever. Can you see her? Claire's eyes reflected the swirling chaos, filled with a mix of horror and recognition. I think that's our grandmother. A rush of memories flooded Lila's mind, stories of a woman who dabbled in the dark arts, a shadowy figure spoken of in whispers. A guardian, but also a curse. Lila swallowed hard, her body electrified with fear. Was this the legacy they wished to embrace? An ancient keeper of secrets, the voice echoed ominously, twisting around them like smoke. The darkness runs thicker in your veins than you realize. Stop, Lila yelled again, her heart racing. You don't have power over us. The shadows roared, crashing against the light surrounding them. Claire's grip tightened like a vice. We have to fight it. We have to know what we're up against. That resonated with Lila. She drew courage from the fiercely beating heart of her sister, from their shared blood, something imbued with strength they had yet to tap into. You're wrong. Our past won't dictate our future. With those words, there was a sudden surge of energy. Lila raised the key high, its metal gleaming defiantly against the darkness. It felt warm, reverberating with each heartbeat, echoing their resolve. Show us our truth. The scream of the apparition intensified, reverberating through the air and ricocheting off the walls. The swirling shadows momentarily halted, as if held at bay by the sheer force of their conviction. Then, suddenly, the shadows shifted, and a vision unfolded in front of them, images cascading like a waterfall. Lila and Claire found themselves hovering at the precipice of their family's history, hooked by the weight of memories. They saw their grandmother, fierce and resolute, shrouded in mystery, performing a ritual surrounded by flickering candles and whispered incantations. The air thickened with a sense of dread as flashes of betrayal and sacrifice unfolded, their family entangled not in mere magic, but with something more sinister. No, Lila gasped, as another vision revealed the faces of those who had sacrificed for power, and the innocence lost in the process. It felt like a knife twisting deeper each time another face from their lineage was revealed, lost souls tethered to a past steeped in blood. Claire, Lila shouted, a lump forming in her throat as she gripped her sister's hand tight. We have to break this cycle. We have to choose a different path. Lila, what if we can't? Claire's eyes were wide with fear. What if this is our only chance to understand? To survive? Before Lila could respond, the portal trembled violently, and the shadowy figure erupted again, voice a discordant symphony of anguish. Embrace it. You are meant for greater things. No, Lila screamed, bolstered by a surge of defiance. We will not be puppets of our past. You don't own us. But the shadows reacted, swirling with renewed fury. Frantic whispers, laced with panic, danced in the air and echoed off the walls. You will never escape, never. Lila felt the shadows brush against her skin like icy fingers, wrapping around her, pulling her down. Claire, fight, she cried, heart racing as the darkness threatened to engulf her. And then came a bolt of light, bright and blinding. It erupted from the key in Lila's hand, spreading out like a shield, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. What was this power? Where had it come from? Together, Claire shouted through the chaos. They focused on each other, drawing strength, refusing to be consumed. But as the light battled the gravity of darkness, Lila glimpsed a deeper shadow lurking within the part of her they had yet to uncover. Was this the truth they all feared? As the chaos escalated, Lila and Claire clung to one another, knowing they had to face this reckoning as one. But just as the light began to burn brighter, the shadows surged forward, threatening to unravel everything. In this moment of fragile equilibrium, Lila knew they were on the brink. The choice hung heavy in the air. Facing their past could either shatter them or forge a new path ahead. What awaited them if they stepped further into the void? Would the shadows find a way to reclaim their birthright through despair? Or would the light reveal the truth they had awakened? The air crackled with tension, and somewhere out there, a decision loomed. The light pulsed and expanded, wrapping around Lila and Claire like a protective cocoon. Their shadows fought back, twisting and squirming, but the energy from the key surged with a life of its own. In that moment, Lila felt an awakening deep within her, a connection to something ancient and powerful, a tangled thread from the past that now coursed through her veins. "Don't let go," Claire shouted, her voice trembling between desperation and strength. Lila tightened her grip on the key. It felt like an extension of herself, igniting her senses. The blinding light pushed the shadows back, but they clawed at the edges, desperate to reclaim their hold. "We have to remember. Our truth is our only weapon against this darkness." Visions flickered in their minds, and Lila gasped as she saw her grandmother again, the darkness starting to unravel around her. The woman stood not as a puppet of shadows, but as a guardian. Lila's heart raced as new realizations crashed over her. Her grandmother's sacrifices had been made not just in search of power, but to protect them from something far worse lurking beneath, something that preyed on their fear. "Claire, look," Lila shouted, her voice steady now. "She's not just a villain. She was fighting for us." They watched as their grandmother's past unfolded, love intertwined with betrayal, her relentless search to sever the chains binding their bloodline to an ancient evil. The truth was convoluted, but it shone like a lighthouse beacon cutting through the fog. If they understood this legacy, perhaps they could redirect its course. "That's it," Claire cried suddenly, her strength returning. "We're not just her granddaughters. We are her living legacy. If we stand together, we can change everything." Just like that, the shadows howled louder, intertwining with their resolve. "You cannot sever the ties. The darkness that binds you is eternal." The eerie voice echoed around them, and icy fingers of despair wrapped around Lila's throat, squeezing tight. Her breath hitched. "We won't bow to fear. We are here to rewrite our story." As Claire joined in, her voice unified with Lila's declaration. The key radiated brighter, purging the shadows inch by inch. The shadows shrieked, distorting, morphing into faces of their ancestors, those who had once succumbed but could not be freed. The pain in their eyes was palpable, and Lila could feel their sorrow seeping into her. Would she, too, be lost to this cycle? "No," Lila shouted, the word reverberating like a battle cry. "We claim our future." With a surge of collective determination, they focused on their presence in this moment, their unity sharp as a blade. The manifestations of despair began to retreat, and a new vision blossomed. The darkness crumbled, revealing doors cracked open, glowing with possibility. Beyond those thresholds lay strength, wisdom, and avenues untapped. But then, the ground beneath them trembled. "You think you can escape?" The shadowy figure loomed, more desperate now. "This darkness is your birthright. You cannot hope to defy it." Lila felt a rush of adrenaline. "We'll redefine it." The cascading light grew, swirling around like a whirlwind, and for a split second, Lila caught her grandmother's gaze in the distance. In that brief moment, she felt a connection and understanding bridging the generations, a silent plea to push forward, to fight against their shared fears. As the portal surged with chaotic energy, Lila and Claire were thrust into a disorienting abyss, surrounded by whispers of the past, a cacophony of voices, both pleading and warning. What had they awakened beneath the shadows? The strength of their choice grew heavier in the air, crackling like static. The darkness twisted around them, stormy and relentless. Lila's heart raced as she realized the light hadn't just pushed the shadows away. It had opened a path. Would they be strong enough to confront what lay ahead? Or would this next step draw them deeper into the void that their grandmother had fought so desperately to escape? As the tension skyrocketed, an ominous laugh echoed through the air, promising that this battle was far from over. As they tumbled through the portal, Lila and Claire were engulfed in a vortex of sound and light. Flickers of childhood memories danced around them, blending with shadows that contorted into faces, friends, family, and even strangers. The memories felt like threads weaving into a dense and murky tapestry of emotion. Lila's heart raced. "What is this place?" she gasped, reaching out to grasp Claire's arm. "Somewhere between reality and the nightmare," Claire replied, eyes wide, mouth dry. "We're caught in a fabric of our own making." The air grew thicker, almost like a tightening noose. Waves of pressure pressed against them from all sides, the chilling echoes of anguished cries threading through the chaotic visuals. "Remember," Lila yelled, trying to cut through the oppressive dread. "We have the key. We can either fall or find our way." But the shadows were shifting again, forming tendrils that crept toward them. The air pulsed with an electric energy that turned bittersweet, malevolent whispers slithering into their ears. "You think your memories will save you? They are the chains binding you to the darkness," a deep voice rasped, echoing throughout the chaos. "No," Claire shouted defiantly, her voice slicing through the thick fog. "Our memories are our strength." Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted in front of them, illuminating what appeared to be a vast expanse, a reflection of their own home, but twisted. Rooms flickered in and out like fragmented dreams. A mirror of their past, tainted with anguish. "Look," Lila cried, pointing to a flickering image in the distance. There they saw their grandmother, younger, full of life but caught in a nightmarish encounter. She was surrounded by dark figures, her face etched in terror. She was fighting. Yes, she had fought against this very malevolence. They could use that strength. With renewed determination, Lila grasped the key tightly, the cool metal a grounding force. "We need to tap into that power. We're part of her struggle, a part of this legacy. Can you feel it?" She turned to Claire. "I can. It's almost like a flame igniting inside me," Claire echoed, her eyes sparkling with a fierce light. Letting out a breath, Lila shouted, "We are reclaiming what's ours." The key glimmered, eager in their grasp. They focused all their emotions into it, fear, hurt, love fueling the light within. The shadows recoiled, writhing and hissing. "You think you can twist fate? You will all suffer." The shadows converged, countering their light with a nagging blackness that dripped like ink. It wrapped around Lila's legs, pulling her down. Panic surged. She had to act. "Claire, together. We can break this." With an energized shout, Claire grabbed the other end of the key and they forced it between them, channeling every ounce of their shared strength. A wave of light erupted, pulsating in rhythm with their cries, forcing back the encroaching darkness. The air shuddered, and the reflection of their grandmother danced in front of them again. But this time her features softened, a proud smile forming. "Together, you possess the power to change your lineage." Lila's heart swelled with hope, an electric joy bubbling up through her as realization dawned. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were reshaping their destinies, writing the future of their family. Yet, as the light surged forward, battling the last vestiges of shadows, something shifted behind them. A cold breath ran down Lila's spine as she turned to see a figure emerging from the depths, cloaked in shadows, a haunting silhouette that bore a chilling resemblance to their grandmother. "No," Claire gasped. "But how?" The figure's voice echoed, drowning everything else out. "You may have the key, but it is I who holds the true power. Your bloodline is tainted, bound to me forever. You are not free." Lila felt the icy grip of fear crawl back into her chest. The shadows loomed heavy as the dark figure laughed, a sound that chilled her to the core. What had they truly awakened beneath the surface? As they prepared to confront the approaching darkness, the room faded, plunging into an uncomfortable silence, leaving them to grip their weapons of light with all they had. Would the truth meld with their fears, or would their last thread of hope snap? The air was thick with tension as Lila faced the shadowy figure, now fully emerged from the depths of their past. The chilling likeness of their grandmother twisted reality, an embodiment of dark truths intertwined with their ancestry. Lila's pulse raced, and she could feel Claire's grip tighten on the key, their bond electrified by fear and determination. "You think you can defy the darkness, child?" the figure hissed, its voice reverberating like a whisper of danger. Shadows wrapped around it like a living shroud, each tendril representing the fears they had fought to escape. "You are bound to it. You will never be free." "No," Lila shouted defiantly, her voice shaking yet firm. "We are more than our past. We can break this chain." Claire stood beside her, a fierce light in her eyes. "We learned from our grandmother. She fought against you, and so will we." With that, the sisters focused their energy into the key, feeling the warmth radiate from its surface, amplifying their resolve. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and the darkness parted slightly, revealing glimmers of light shimmering in the void. They were fleeting memories, moments of joy and strength that had survived amidst the sorrow. "Gather our strength," Lila urged Claire. "We can rewrite our fate." Images of their childhood flooded in, games in the backyard, laughter shared, their mother's embrace. Memories stitched together like a patchwork quilt, painting a picture that could not easily be erased. "We will not succumb," Lila affirmed, heart surging with newfound power. As they concentrated, the key pulsed rhythmically, and a blinding light burst forth, washing over them. The shadowy figure faltered, its form wavering as the beacon of truth gained momentum. Together, they ignited their sheer force of will, pounding the fabric of darkness like a drum resilient and relentless. "You cannot break what is in your blood," it screeched, attempting to regain form, but their light surged brighter. "Watch us," Lila shouted, the words flowing from a deep well of hope and courage. Drawing deeper into the light, echoed by memories of love, she thrust the key forward. "We unlock our power, and we step into our truth." In that moment, the key blazed with energy, illuminating the entire realm, and the darkness writhed in surrender. Its tendrils began to dissolve, pulling away reluctantly, revealing the face of their grandmother no longer shrouded in shadow but infused with light. Together, Claire breathed, "We stand united." And as one, arms linked, they stepped forward through the blinding light, ready to embrace whatever lay beyond. They could see fragments of the tapestry of their lineage, the pain, the sacrifices, but also the hope that had emerged each time darkness had threatened to consume them. The shadows screamed as they dismantled and faded into nothingness. The last remnants cowered against the brilliance, powerless in the face of Lila and Claire's unwavering resolve. "We are the keepers of our own destiny," Lila cried, feeling the weight of their actions reverberate in the very core of her being. The chamber pulsated with newfound potential, the echoes of their past transforming into chance declarations of defiance against fear. They were more than just survivors. They were rewriting the story, the authors of their chapter in the legacy that had haunted them for so long. As the final shadows dissolved, nothing remained but the radiant light, a promise that they had reclaimed their lineage. Claire turned to Lila, her eyes sparkling with tears of joy. "We did it. We broke the cycle." They embraced tightly, hearts racing, feeling the bond between them stronger than ever before, a promise of unwavering support through whatever came next. With each passing moment, the vibrant energy dispersed throughout the realm, illuminating paths of possibilities beyond the darkness they had overcome. Grateful for what they had added to their story, Lila took a deep breath, filled with the sweet taste of freedom and renewal. "Let us go home," Claire whispered, and together they walked into the light, knowing that their story was finally so conclusively theirs to write. As they stepped into the new dawn of their lives, Lila felt a stirring in her heart. Now we can forge ahead, without fear of what's behind us. And with that sense of closure, they embraced the unknown, turning their backs on the shadows forever, as the bright promise of tomorrow awaited them. The laughter of their past wove through the air, nurturing hope as they moved forward together, anew. This is the end of one journey, friends, but the beginning of another filled with endless possibilities. If you love this story, You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive content coming soon. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and let us keep growing this amazing community together. Make sure you flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the truth revealed in this ending. I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.